This course is going to cover absolutely everything I know from using my own personal brand to grow 2 six-figure businesses in the last 4 years without a huge audience or posting every single day across 5 different platforms. Right now, if you are posting content, then you are on one of 2 paths. Path 1 is the content creator, and this is when your entire strategy is to create content, hit publish, and then pray that somehow those views and followers turn into money in your pocket. And path 2 is the contentpreneur. And this is when you post intentional content that builds deep trust with your audience and creates a 24-hour sales machine that moves your audience towards buying your products or your services. Now, if you are on path number 1 right now, maybe you've even started creating content and your audience is growing, but your income isn't, then this course is going to give you step-by-step everything you need to get onto path number 2. It's going to be split into 4 parts. First, we have positioning, how to position yourself to attract an audience of buyers and not just fans, content, how and what to post to grow, nurture, and convert your audience, monetization, what you should sell and how to sell it, and then systems, a step-by-step plan that you can start today. But before we start, and this is very important, I want to remove any doubt in your mind that you watching this video now can do this. It doesn't matter who you are. I am probably the most unlikely person to have built a successful personal brand. When I meet people in real life and they find out that I create content like this, they are shocked because it seems like the complete opposite of my personality. I am a huge introvert, and in every single social situation, I am the quiet, observant one, just sat back letting everyone else do the talking. And when I started this 4 years ago, I was a very different version of the person that you see in front of the camera now. I had a fraction of the confidence that I have now. I hated the sound of my own voice. I was living in a house with 5 other people and I couldn't record a video unless literally every single person was out of the house because I was so embarrassed that if I thought even one person might be able to hear me, I couldn't do it. The only reason I started creating content was because I was launching my web design business and I was determined to find a way to make clients come to me without having to spend all day talking to people because I had zero interest or social energy to network or do cold outreach. And so I never set out to be a content creator. I am a business owner who uses content to market my business. And as a result of this, I was able to take my web design business from 0 to 10K per month within 3 months, posting just 5 videos a week on a brand new TikTok account with less than 1,000 followers. And then when I realized that as an introvert, working with clients all day, every day just drained my energy and I wanted to pivot my business, last January, I started out on YouTube with 400 subscribers and within 3 months had grown my channel to 20,000 subscribers and had 3 5-figure months selling my own digital products. And this is the beauty of a personal brand. When you build an audience around you, then you can sell anything that you put your name to. It gives you complete freedom to build your business any way that you want. So whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, you can create your business around only the things that energize you and cut everything else out. And when you have a very intentional strategy, you don't need to be posting hundreds of pieces of content across 5 different platforms in order to grow your audience, and you don't have to wait until you have thousands of followers before you can start making money from your audience. So my goal with this video is to give you the tools to create your business exactly the way you want it to look. I could just give you an exact template and tell you copy step by step exactly what I did. But the truth is I would just be setting you up to fail because you're different, your business is different. So I want to give you as much of the knowledge and tools as possible that I've gained in my own journey so that you can create a business that works with your strengths and the life that you want to create for yourself. And the best way I know how to help you do this is by giving you all the knowledge you need to grow your audience and build a powerful personal brand, and then give you all the strategies that you need to create a successful offer that you can send this audience to. And so a personal brand is not just posting about your life or whatever you want to talk about. You don't need to post day in the life videos. I have never done this. The word personal might confuse this a bit, but it's actually not about you at all. And it's all about your audience and the value that you provide and what you help them do. And just making sure that people connect the value that you provide to your face and your name so that they start to trust you as a person and an authority, which is why a personal brand is such an effective tool for building a business, especially if you are creative or an entrepreneur who has multiple passions and interests and will likely want to grow and pivot throughout the course of your business. The best long-term strategy is going to be building a personal brand. You want to build an audience that are following you for you, they feel a connection with you, and they trust you as a person, which means they will continue to follow you throughout the course of your business and buy whatever you put your name to. You might have multiple offers, services, or products throughout the course of your business journey, but if you are continuously nurturing and building this audience and this personal brand, This means that 5 years from now, you will have an audience of super fans who have been with you throughout this entire journey. They trust you and they're just ready to buy whatever you want to sell them. And so each new offer, whether that's services or digital products or a course, gets easier and easier to sell, and your business becomes more effortless over time, which gives you enormous freedom to take your business in whichever direction you choose. And so what we're going to cover in this video will give you the tools to grow this audience and your personal brand long term, but also monetize this with different offers as you and your business grows along the way, so that by the end of this video, you can create a predictable content ecosystem where you know exactly what content you should be putting out, and you have an offer that perfectly aligns with this content, and so that you know exactly what actions that you need to be focusing on. And if you just focus on doing these consistently, then the content will do the work for you to generate sales for your business. So to give you an example of what we're creating here, my business has always been incredibly simple. This here is all I had set up to hit my first 50K month. Organic content on one platform that I was new to at the time, I didn't have a massive following, to one offer on one sales page. And this is exactly what is possible when you have the tools to build an engaged audience and perfectly align this with the right offer. So all of the skills, the knowledge, and the systems that you actually need to hit 6 figures in your business is incredibly simple. Anyone telling you that you need to diversify your offers or try this new business model or complicated sales funnel is just trying to confuse you to make this seem more complicated than it is, so that you will buy whatever course it is from them. Once you have this simple funnel set up, of course, there's more that you can do to grow your business and set up systems to increase your sales. But if this alone isn't working, then no amount of email sequences or complicated sales funnels or business models are going to help you. You have to start with the basics. And once you've built up the skills and the knowledge to be able to do this, you have the ability to build an audience and a business around almost anything on any platform. And so this system right here might sound really simple, but the only thing that I can guarantee is that it will not be quick or easy. The skills to create content and build an audience takes a lot of time and practice to master, and learning how to create and sell an offer is also a skill that takes time and a lot of trial and error, which is why going into this is probably going to feel like nothing is working for a really long time. And so it can be really easy to think that you're doing something wrong or something is missing, and in those moments it's very easy to get distracted with different business models or different marketing strategies. But the reason that most people aren't successful when it comes to building a business or creating content is just that they underestimate the quantity of work and the length of time that you need to stick to something to actually see results. I know that I only got to where I am today because I didn't give up. I was determined to build a business that gave me the freedom that I wanted no matter what. At every stage of my business where I had a big win or a huge breakthrough, the day before or the week before, I was at my absolute lowest. Before I hit my first 50K month selling digital products, I had made almost no money for a year before that. And I was completely convinced that I was just delusional, and I had been working so hard on this thing that was just never going to work for me. And so I really want you to understand that this is not going to be quick or easy, but sticking with it has been the best thing that I have ever done. The end result here is a business that gives you complete financial and time freedom. And so for me, whether that took 1 or 5 years, that was worth it to me. I was not going to give up until it happened. And so this is the mindset that you need to have going into this. And the second mindset that you're going to need to have is to take action before you feel ready. It is very easy to get caught up in the research and the planning phase, especially when you're struggling to actually see what the end result looks like. But the thing about building a business is that you actually have no idea where you're going to be a year from now. You have to start taking action before you see the road ahead or the end goal. This is going to be a long video, so a lot of this is probably going to feel quite overwhelming at first, but most of the learning comes from actually implementing these strategies and applying them to your own business. You really are going to have to trust the process without seeing or knowing what the end result is going to look like. At the end of the day, I can give you all of the knowledge and the tools that I have, but a lot of this learning has to come from your own experience. And I promise you that the more action you take, the more that everything in this video will just start to make sense. And so you're probably going to want to save this video to come back to as you start implementing all of these things. And so creating content can be shallow and exhausting, or it can be a very powerful tool. Before I started posting on TikTok, I hated social media and I never posted anything or spent any time there. I never thought of myself as a content creator. I am a business owner who just happens to use my content and my personal brand as a vehicle for growing my business. And so for me, this really is just business, but because of the nature of creating content and putting yourself on camera and putting yourself out there, it can still be very exhausting. And it can feel very personal when you're not getting the views or the followers or the sales. And so you have to find a way to shift your mindset to separate yourself from your content. And so the third essential mindset that you want to have going into this is that everything is an experiment. Every piece of content, everything you do in your business is simply an experiment. It doesn't need to be perfect. You don't need to have everything figured out. You're just trying a bunch of things to see what works. Creating content is essentially just your market research for your business. And so if you put something out there and it doesn't do well, then great, you have more data to use for next time. The more failed experiments that you have, the closer you are to finding out what is actually going to work. And so as I mentioned before, I am not trying to be a content creator making content for the platform. I am a contentpreneur making content for my business. Contentpreneurs are not focused on vanity metrics like views, likes, or followers. These do not generate sales for your business. Contentpreneurs measure success in building connection with your audience and sales. Is your content converting and generating money for your business? So whichever platform you choose to build your audience on, this is going to be your digital storefront and your sales funnel all in one. This is the place where you build your audience, you nurture them to build trust and authority, and then convert people to your offer. As I mentioned, especially when you're just starting out, you don't need complicated sales funnels or email sequences. Your content is the majority of your sales funnel. It allows you to get started quickly, experiment with what works, and then iterate fast in order to build your business quicker. Your content is the quickest and most powerful way of taking someone from having no idea who you are to being ready to buy from you. All you need to generate sales for your business is high quality organic content, an optimized profile, and one high converting sales page. And your content is going to be 100% more effective at converting people to your offer when it is very specific. You're talking to one person about one offer. You're helping a specific person get from where they are now to where they want to be. Ideally, your ideal customer is going to see your content, come onto your account, know exactly who this content is for and what it will help them do, then binge all of your free content to seek out as much as they possibly can from you, then actively seek out your paid offers because they trust you and they know that you can help them get what they want. And so the more specific you are in the value that you provide and the audience that you serve, the easier it is to attract the right audience, grow on any platform, and then convert this audience into sales. And the problem is that most people watching this video are probably going to hate this idea, either because you don't know what you want to offer yet, or you have an idea of what you want your business to look like, but you're scared to fully commit because you don't want to get stuck in this small niche. And a lot of times it can feel very scary to fully commit to one thing and go all in on it. It almost feels safer to keep your options open. I had the same thing before I launched my web design business. I was freelancing and doing a load of different projects, and I let that hold me back from going all in on web design because I told myself that I loved that variety and I didn't know if I wanted to get stuck designing websites for the rest of my life. But in reality, when I narrowed down my offer and launched my web design business, this was a huge part of how I was able to attract those first clients so quickly and how I was able to charge more for those clients because I only offered this one thing. It was easier for people to find me and to understand how I could help them and to also see me as an expert, and so I could charge more. And I still explored all of my other interests on the side. I still worked on other things, but my public messaging was very specific to convert to my key offer at the time. So this is really important. The thing that you start with now does not have to be the thing that you stick with forever. While no one knows who you are, you want to start specific, which allows you to build trust and grow your audience. And actually starting specific and doing this will give you more freedom to do whatever you want later on. And this is because of something called the halo bias. When you show the world something that you are really good at, then they start to trust you and they also start to believe that you're good at everything else too. The problem is that the opposite is also true. If you try and do everything and show the world a bunch of things that you're just average at, then they're going to think that you are just average at everything. And so when it comes to building your personal brand, you really want to lean very hard into your strengths. To give you an example of how this works in practice, I was also worried about getting stuck in the web design niche. But what I found is that every single one of my audience are multi-dimensional people with multiple interests and passions, just like me. And so the people that were interested in web design were also interested in sales psychology, which was a huge interest of mine. And these are the same people that are also interested in freelance systems and general online business strategy. But if I had started by posting about general online business strategy, it would have been much harder harder to attract that initial audience and build my reputation at the start. Starting specific allowed me to establish myself as an expert and a trustworthy source on one thing. And because I served this audience so well, it became much more applicable to a larger group too. There was other freelancers who also found my content really helpful, even though they weren't web designers. So now I've been able to branch out and get broader and broader over time and work with a whole range of people in my coaching program. But if I had started posting about all of these different things from the start, it would have been much harder for people to understand what I'm about and the value that I provide, and for me to build that initial trust and authority in the first place. And this hasn't just worked for me. If we look at Ali Abdaal, this is exactly what he did too. He grew his initial audience making videos helping people study and get into medicine, and then slowly over time he broadened his content topics and now makes content about everything around building a life that you love. And so while no one knows you, pick one thing that you want people to associate with you to help you build recognizability. The only time this doesn't work is when you build an audience around something very niche and completely leave out any of your own personality. Because when you completely leave you out of your content, it doesn't leave any room for that personal connection, and it's then very difficult to take this audience with you. Niche accounts create followers, not fans. And followers are great if that's what you want, but fans are the people who will follow you because they trust you, they've built a connection with you, and they're ready to buy whatever it is that you want to sell them. 1,000 fans are far more valuable to you and your business than 10,000 followers. So let's get into positioning and how we create these fans. And so when it comes to creating our personal brand, this is the formula that we're going to use. So one is transformation. Instead of picking a generic category to put yourself in, I want you to pick a specific person and what are you helping this person do. Number two is value. What is the value that you provide to help them do this? And number three is personality. How can you bring your own experiences, skills, and personality to set yourself apart and build trust? And so the first exercise that we're going to use to do this, you can find in the free Notion workbook below this video. This exercise is going to be finding your unfair advantages. So this is about identifying your strengths, your interests, and the experiences that you have and that you can utilize to build your audience and your business and set yourself apart. So the first question that you want to ask yourself is, what am I good at? What do other people say that you're good at or often ask for your help with? The second question that you want to ask is, what do I have access to? Is there a niche or an industry or an audience that you have a deep knowledge or understanding of or a connection with that you can use to your advantage? The third question is, what experience can I use? You want to list transformations that you have achieved for yourself or others that other people would also like to achieve. And the fourth is, how am I different? Is there something about how I do what I do that could help me stand out? Now, it really doesn't need to be complicated. You don't need to have huge, impressive answers for all of these questions. For example, when I first started out, these would have been my answers. The thing that I would have said I was good at was graphic design. It's the thing that I was always drawn to throughout school, and it's the number one thing that people would ask for my help with. I didn't feel like I had any connections or experience, but I had taught myself how to build basic websites. And the thing that got me excited and I could spend hours researching was sales psychology and storytelling within web design. And so this was the thing that gave me an edge or made me different to other web designers. I didn't even necessarily have any experience in it, but I was just very interested and energized by it. And I think this is one of the most important things. You have to build your audience and your brand around the things that naturally energize you, not what you think you should be doing. So the second exercise that we're going to do here is putting together our transformation statement. So this is about taking your skills, your knowledge, and experience and combining them to identify the person that you are best equipped to help in your content and in your business. And so for this exercise, I want you to try and picture a specific person sat in front of you. And the most important question that you need to answer about this person is, what situation is this person in now and where do they want to be? And then this will help you decide what is the value that you're going to provide that's going to help them do this. Now, you don't have to have your ideal customer fully dialed in before you start. You're going to gain a much clearer picture of them once you start putting content out there. So for now, this transformation can be more broad, but the thing that you want to be very specific about is the value that you provide. And I'm going to get more into that in a moment. But first, if you're unsure of who your ideal customer is, how do you find out? And the truth is that this just comes from experimenting. When I first started out, I had no idea who my ideal customer was really. I was just making content for anybody who I thought might need a website, and I was sharing everything I knew that could help this person. And once you start doing that, then you start to notice what content topics perform better than others, what gets people's attention, and then you start to figure out what people are specifically struggling with that you can help them with. And often people will start to tell you exactly what they need in your comments. They'll say things like, "This is great, but how would you apply it to my specific situation?" And then you start to learn more about where people are actually at. For example, I quickly found out that my content around storytelling and copywriting far outperformed everything else. And so I learned that this was the thing that people most needed my help with. And then once people start coming to you and you start actually working with people, you start talking to them and you start getting a much clearer idea of who these people are that need your help. And this becomes much clearer and clearer over time. But you have to start in order to find this out. For example, once I started working with people and talking to them on sales calls, I learned the exact situation that most people coming to me were in. They were small business owners 2 to 3 years into their business, struggling to effectively communicate their offer to attract qualified leads. And then the transformation that I offered them was brand messaging that is like a magnet for their ideal customer and a website that converts qualified leads on autopilot. And the last question that you want to ask yourself is, how can I use my own journey or transformation to relate to this person? Now, this is a bonus question because depending on where you're at and the experience that you have, this might not be relevant for you. For example, when I started in my web design business, I felt like I had very little experience and I didn't really know how to relate to my customers in this way. But now, as my audience has changed and my business and my offer has changed, my own journey and transformation is something that I talk about a lot because it is directly related to my offer. For example, this is one of the transformations that I talk to my audience about, going from a freelancer with multiple passions, struggling to make a consistent income, to 10K per month as a creative business owner. And so I take all my knowledge and experiences and share them to help the person that I was 4 years ago get to where I am now. And so for those of you who do not know what you want to offer yet, I would suggest starting by making content for the person who's 2 to 3 steps behind you. You want to ask yourself, what situation was I in 1, 3, or 5 years ago? Where am I now? And what did I need to learn to get here? As I said, this transformation can be very broad and you narrow it down over time. But the thing that you want to be more specific about is the value that you provide. And so exercise 3 is going to help you get really clear on what this value is going to be. And this is about finding your zone of genius. You do not have to be good at everything. Owning your zone of genius is what helps set you apart as an expert in your field. What you want to do is embrace the things that you are good at and do not feel the need to be an expert at everything. So don't feel the need to be an expert at everything. All you need to do is show the people one thing that you are really good at that can help them. When I first started, I was overwhelmed by all of the things that I didn't know. I didn't have experience with SEO or a specific industry or building e-commerce sites. There was so much that I felt like I still needed to learn that made me feel like an imposter. But the thing is that when you lean into your strengths and say, this is what I'm good at and this is what I offer, then it actually makes you look like more of an expert in that thing. When you are the person who only offers SEO or only offers copywriting or only offers logo design, then the people around you automatically presume that you are an expert in that thing. You only offer this because it is your area of specialty and they are far more likely to see you as an expert, whether that's true or not. And this just goes back to the halo effect. You want to show people the one thing that you are really good at to build credibility and build an audience around this one thing, and then you can branch out from there. So you want to ask yourself, what are you good at? What do you enjoy? And what do you want to talk about? And this is so important because you want to make sure that you are choosing things that you are naturally interested in and excited about. You want to choose things that you would spend hours researching in your spare time anyway, not just what you think people want to see. Otherwise, you are absolutely going to hate the content you create and the business that you build, and it's just not going to be sustainable. People can really feel when you are just churning out content for the sake of it and it's not something that you are actually interested in. And so just to make your life easier, go with the thing that you are most excited about don't overthink what you should be doing just because you think it was going to make you more money or it's the safer option. And the other thing that you want to do to really set yourself apart is get very clear about what you don't want to talk about. For example, my content is a lot around helping people in their business. And a lot of this is from the perspective of web design because that's my experience, but specifically from the perspective of the client process and business strategy. There are a lot of other accounts who also help people do the same thing, but by teaching them how to use a specific website platform or teaching them all the technical aspects of web design. And so I could also help people become web designers by creating Framer tutorials. It's something that people ask me for a lot, but it's not something that I have any interest in talking about or teaching. And so I'm very clear that it is not something that I do, which I think actually helps set me apart from other accounts. I'm coming at this from a very different angle based on my interests and what I like to teach. And I'm not trying to be the best at everything. Now, I know something that's going to come up a lot when you're thinking about your zone of genius and what you actually want to be talking about in your content is this feeling that you're actually not qualified enough yet, or you don't have enough experience to talk about anything. And the bad news here is that I don't think imposter syndrome is something that ever goes away. I don't think you ever feel qualified enough yet. Every single time I post a new video on this channel, I get a little ping of anxiety that this is the video that everyone is going to find out that I am a fraud. And sometimes the comments that I get confirm these fears. People are not always nice. But then I have to remind myself of all the comments and emails that I get from people who my content has genuinely helped. And so when it comes to overcoming imposter syndrome, the best mindset you can have is to be a guide, not a guru. You do not need to be this all-knowing expert to be able to share value and help people. You are just a guide sharing what you know in the hope that someone else will get value from it. If I have some experience or have done a lot of research on a topic that could genuinely help other people, why wouldn't I share it with them? If I have learned how to build a high converting sales page and I could build it for someone else, save them time doing it for themselves and potentially increase the sales coming into their business, then there are plenty of people who would see huge amounts of value in this. All I have to do is share my knowledge to show them that I am capable of helping them. And so if you are feeling this imposter syndrome, let it fuel you to be the best at what you do. My imposter syndrome has continuously pushed me to over deliver and be the best at what I do. There was so much learning and research that I did when I first started to prove that I knew what I was talking about and just get better and better at helping my clients. And so it's okay to feel that imposter syndrome. Just remind yourself that everyone is feeling it and let it fuel you to be better, and don't let it stop you from putting yourself out there. And so the last piece of the puzzle in building your personal brand is turning followers into fans. And the way that you do this is by sharing more of yourself in your content to build that personal connection. As I said before, this is not posting everything about your life or oversharing. There is a very simple formula to this. The first is authenticity. So personality, sense of humor, interests, or unique ways of doing things. Don't be afraid to put more of yourself into your content, because the more you can do this, the more points of connection you make with people in your audience. The second is connection. So is there any personal stories or struggles that you can use to build connection? Now, don't overshare just for the sake of it. I only share things within the context of the point that I'm trying to make, because what this does is help your audience feel like you understand what they're going through and what they're struggling with. One of the things that gets the biggest response from people every time is when I share about being an introvert, or I share the doubts and insecurities that I had when I first started my business. Or for example, I put out an email promoting my coaching program, and I shared about how when I first started creating content, I could only film with a completely empty house because I was worried someone was going to hear me, and I was so self-conscious. And this was the email that got the most replies from people in my audience. Any situation like that people can relate to, you want to try and bring that into your content. And then lastly, and most importantly, is authority. So in other words, how can I trust that you are the person qualified to help me? And so the first way to build authority is just by sharing outstanding quality content. This positions you as someone worth listening to and paying for advice or expertise. And the second way that you build authority is by building your reputation. And your reputation is built through the results that you've achieved for yourself or others and social proof. So case studies, testimonials, brands that you've worked with, or money that you've made. Now, whenever I talk about this, the first question that I get asked is, what if I don't have any results yet? When I first started out, I didn't have any results either. I got my first audience and my first clients with 0 results, 0 testimonials. And I built my authority entirely through the quality of the content that I was putting out. And then when you start getting customers, you can focus all your energy on over delivering and going above and beyond to provide as much value as you possibly can. And this is how I got my first testimonial, and this is all you need, just one. I have used this first testimonial again and again in my content, in my sales pages. It's not about the quantity of social proof, it's the quality. And so we're going to go into more depth about how you actually get these testimonials and social proof later on in this video. But the one thing that I want you to start doing now is creating your brag bank. This is basically just a list of results and testimonials, anything that you can refer back to, because you are going to use these things time and time again in your content, in your sales pages, in any marketing that you put out. And your ability to talk about your results and brag about yourself is going to directly impact your ability to build an audience and make money in your business. And so when we bring all of these different elements together, this is how we position ourselves to attract an audience of not just followers, but fans that are ready to buy from you. We're talking to a specific person. We're helping them achieve a specific transformation by providing value within our zone of genius, using our personality, story, and results to build connection and trust. And so this might seem a little abstract right now, but stick with me because this is all going to start to come together in this next section when we start getting into the content. What should you post and how should you post to build this audience? Now, when it comes to getting started creating content, a huge thing that holds people back is not knowing what they want to sell yet. Maybe you don't have your offers sorted yet, you don't have your website built, you don't have your entire business plan mapped out, but you do not need any of this to get started. If you do know what you want to sell, this is great because we can start making content with the end in mind. This is going to give you the direction for your content. But if you're not sure what you want to sell, then we can start with experimentation and then use our audience to create our offer, which is actually the ideal way of doing it. A business is not built alone in your bedroom. It's built in collaboration with your audience based on their feedback, their needs, and their problems. So as I mentioned before, our content is our market research. And so you do not have to have everything figured out before you start. Now, the overarching strategy when it comes to our content is give everything away for free and then sell the implementation. The more value that you give up front and the longer you wait to ask for something in return, the bigger the payoff. Now, this doesn't mean that we need to spend years building our audience without ever selling anything to anyone, but you do need to start by providing a shit ton of value first before you ask for anything in return. Especially when everyone is creating content, everyone is posting the same how-to tips. The only way to build an audience and stand out is through the depth of the value that you provide. I really believe that this is how I had so much success with my YouTube channel at the beginning of last year. I taught people everything I knew about building a web design business and the entire client process. I held nothing back. I had people commenting on my videos saying, I cannot believe that this is free. And because I did this, this was a huge reason that I was also able to convert so many people to my offer. I gave them all the knowledge, everything they needed for free, and then sold them the templates to help them implement this faster and save them a ton of time doing it themselves. So that's the overall strategy, and I'm going to walk you through exactly what this looks like. And so as I said before, you want to be very specific about the transformation that you offer in your content and the value that you provide to help people do this. Now, it could be that you offer a very broad transformation, but you are very specific in the value that you provide to help people do this. So for example, your transformation helps anybody looking to create a more happy and fulfilling life, but the way that you do this is through journaling. So it's a very specific niche. Or on the other hand, it could be that you offer a very specific transformation. You're talking to a very specific person in a specific situation, but you use a range of skills and knowledge to be able to help them achieve this. So for example, you're helping people go from 0 to 10K per month with a web design business, but you're offering broad value to help them do this. So web design process, client management, mindset, time management, audience growth, offer creation, all of these things. And so either way works, but the only thing you want to make sure is that you're not picking a very broad transformation and then offering a broad amount of value to help them do this. So then when it comes to our content, the goal is to attract the attention of as many people as possible interested in achieving this transformation by creating a library of content that shows them your personal system or solution to solving this problem and achieving the desired outcome. This is the part where you want people to say, I just found your content and I've been binging it. This is how we convince them that you are the person that they can trust to get them what they want, and then trigger them to take action and actively seek out our offer to buy or work with us. So you don't want to overwhelm people with value in every single piece of content. And so each piece of content should break this down into bite-sized value. So each video should address one specific problem for one specific person at one specific point in their journey. So when it comes to the type of content that you need to be creating, there are 3 types of content that you need. 20% outreach. This is the content for people who have no idea who you are. 60% nurture. This is for the people who have seen you before, but maybe don't have a really good idea of what you're about. And then 20% convert. And so this is for the people who already love you and already want to buy from you. So outreach content is your viral content. This is designed to get attention and grow your audience. So examples of outreach content include more surface level content like tools, tips, or hacks. This content is usually applicable to a broader audience and leaves out a lot of the nuance. And with this type of content, you often want to provoke some kind of reaction and get people to engage with it. You will usually figure out what this outreach content is through experimenting. Most of the time, I've come across this by accident, and it's usually not when I'm overthinking and trying to make viral content. It's just when I'm having fun with it and making content about things that I'm excited about. And so when you have a piece of content that does well, then you want to try and recreate it regularly to create this 20% outreach content. And so the bulk of our content is going to be nurture content. And this is going to help build trust and show that you know how to help people get what they want. This content is about showing off your expertise and building personal connection. And so you want to be sharing value with a lot of depth that shows off your expertise. And so one really good way of doing this, if you don't have a lot of experience or expertise yet, is to use well-known brands or people that your ideal customers are familiar with, and then break down what strategies they use and why it works, or show what you would do differently if you were working with them. We also want to use this nurture content to build personal connection. So for example, sharing your founder story and giving a behind the scenes look at your background and why you started your business, or sharing stories from your own journey or your life that your audience can relate to. And then lastly, we have our conversion content. And this is when we want to answer any questions people have, show them the results that we can get them, and then trigger them to take action and buy from us. So people can really overthink this part when it comes to selling, but at the end of the day, selling is just educating. You want to educate people about your service or your product and how it helps solve their problems and achieve their goals. So ways that you can do this is you can share results that you've got yourself or your clients and the strategies that you use to do this. You can share case studies. So when this client came to me, they were struggling with this problem, and here's how I helped them get this result. And if you're creative, you can also share visual transformations. The other thing you can do is show your process. So share behind the scenes of your client process or show your product in action. The more transparent you are with all of this in your content, the easier your sales become, because it basically answers any question that someone might have before buying from you. If you have a breakdown of exactly how your client process works, how much you charge, and what's included, then it makes sure that when someone comes to you, their expectations are completely aligned. They already know exactly what to expect, and then your sales calls become a breeze because they're already ready to work with you. And it's the same with any kind of product. The best thing that I ever did was to make videos that walked through absolutely everything that was included in the templates that I sell and just embed that on my sales page. People can see exactly what they're getting, and there's no doubt in their mind. You want to provide value content that positions you as an expert. The right type of value content will act as a magnet to your ideal audience and get them ready to buy from you. But the wrong type of value will completely repel that audience from you. And this all comes down to knowing the person that you are talking to. Your content is your marketing funnel, and with any marketing funnel, you have to take into account the person's level of awareness at each point in their journey. And so there are 5 levels of awareness that each person goes through in their journey to buying from you. So the first level is unaware. This is when your customer doesn't realize that they have a problem or need, and so they're not actively looking for a solution. The second is when they're problem aware. They know they have a problem, but they don't know which solution exists. Solution aware is that they know there is a solution, but they haven't decided on a specific product or brand yet. And then product aware is when they are aware of specific products or brands that can solve their problem, but need more information to choose from. And then aware is when they know of you specifically, they're ready to buy, and now they're just waiting for the right moment to take action. And so your growth, nurture, and conversion content is designed to move someone through this funnel, but you need to be aware of what stage your ideal customer is at when they come across your content. For example, the ideal client for a web designer is someone who is already in the solution aware phase. They know they have a problem, they know what a website can do for their business, and they're ready to invest in someone to help them with that. So you have to make content that talks directly to this person and just shows off your expertise and show them that you're the right person for the the job. Making content for the person who's in this unaware phase, telling them why they need a website, is going to completely miss the mark. And so to make this very simple, the way that you want to think about this is, instead of focusing on how you do what you do, focus on why. For example, if you are an email automations expert, how content would be how to create email automations, but why content would be increase your revenue and generate sales while you sleep. The first attracts a DIYer, the second attracts someone who wants to hire you to do the job for them. Or when it comes to selling digital products, like for example, my client portal template, how content would be how to create a client portal, why content would be how to deliver an elevated client experience that allows you to charge more. The thing that you want to remember is that you're not here to convince people that they have a problem. The right customer already knows they have a problem and they're looking to invest. They just need to know that you are the right choice. And so how do you show people that you are the right choice? How do you get people to trust you? And the first way that we've already talked about is focus on the depth of value that you provide. Create a library of useful content proving your knowledge and your skills. Focus on creating content so good that people can't stop talking about it, especially now when everyone is using AI to churn out the same how-to tips. Surface level content just really is not going to cut it. The second is social proof and results, so filling your brag bank with results, testimonials, and case studies. The third is being completely transparent in your content, show your process, answer questions in public. And lastly, share your story, struggles, and failures, as well as your personality to connect with your audience. Often people think that they need to put themselves above their audience to create authority, but people will buy from you when they feel like they can relate to you. As much as possible, I try to be completely transparent about everything in my business, my failures, my struggles, my insecurities, everything in my story that people can relate to, because when they see themselves in you, they're far more likely to trust you. And this is when you become an authority, not when you present yourself as this all-knowing expert telling them exactly what to do. And so this is our overall messaging and content strategy, but the thing that we need to do now is pick which platform that we're going to grow our audience on. Now, the first thing to bear in mind is that regardless of which platform you choose, relying on any one of these platforms is a bad idea. People have been very worried about the TikTok ban, but you could suddenly lose access to your audience on any of these platforms at any time. And so your real audience is the audience that you collect on your email list. This is the audience that you own and that you will always have access to regardless of any of these platforms or any algorithm changes. And so we want to find the platform that works for you right now to get views and generate traffic, but the goal is to get people off of this platform and to either your paid products or your email list. And so the best platform for you is going to be the one that's most effective at doing this. And this isn't necessarily for you the one that's going to get the most views or followers. For example, it is much harder to grow your audience on YouTube than it is on TikTok, but the conversions for your business are far better on YouTube. And so that's the first thing to bear in mind. And so choosing the platform that works for you is about finding the sweet spot between what works for you and the content style that you like, and where your audience are and what platform is best at reaching them right now. And so if you haven't started building your audience yet and you're unsure which platform is right for you, the best strategy is going to be to spend a short time experimenting. You want to post to multiple platforms and try a lot of different content formats, and then just double down on the one that takes off first. And the reason that you don't want to continue posting to all of these different platforms at once is that it's really not going to be effective for you and your business. You do not need to be everywhere all at once to be seen. You just need to pick one platform and do it really, really well. A lot of people will look at these big creators with huge teams posting across 5 different platforms and think that's what you need to be doing too. But the thing is, when you don't have this big team, maybe you're still learning to create content and you're also experimenting to see what works. To gain any real momentum on any platform, you need to focus all your energy and all your attention on this. That way your efforts compound. Otherwise, you just spread yourself thin across all of these platforms and see no meaningful results on any of them. You do not have endless time and energy in your business. And so what you want to do is master one platform and then diversify later on once you know what works. If you divide your attention now across multiple platforms, you will struggle to create any leverage on any of them. It takes time, consistency, quantity, and quality to create an audience and convert that audience on any one of these platforms. And so if you divide your time and attention across multiple different platforms, you are going to struggle to create this leverage for yourself. I don't think there is any benefit to you being everywhere all at once. I built my web design business from posting 5 videos a week on TikTok. That is it. And I built my digital product business to 5 figures a month from posting 1 video a week on YouTube. You do not need to be everywhere all at once to see very impactful results for your business. Now, when I tell people this, a lot of people just want to ignore me anyway and still repurpose their content. They think I'm making this content, and so I might as well post it everywhere. And so if you really have to post on more than one platform, then pick a platform that you are going to focus on and then spray and pray on all the others. What I mean by this is what works on every platform is very different. And so you want to focus all your energy on creating content that works really well on one platform. And then if you have to post that content again on other platforms, don't try to adapt it to those platforms. Just post it exactly the same and then hope that it works. But it is still going to take time for you to repurpose this content, even if you're not adapting it to the other platforms. This is 2+ hours a week that you are not getting back. And so it's really up to you to decide if that is worth it, or those 2 hours are best spent creating better content and putting all of your energy into your focus platform, because this is what I do and this is what has worked for me. So the best platform for you is going to be the platform that allows you to create content easily and consistently. And this is usually going to be the one that you're most familiar with, the one that you spend the most time on, and that has a content style that suits you, your personality, and your energy, and then what you like to create. And so the first question you want to ask yourself is, are you going to start with written or video content? Now, if you're still learning to create content, you've never done it before, and you kind of hate the thought of being on camera, then written content has a much lower barrier for entry, and it's going to be really easy for you to get started right away. The plus side when it comes to video content, though, is that it has a higher leverage. You can build a far more powerful connection with your audience talking to them on camera like I am now. I recommend that everybody eventually ends up on video anyway, because you're going to be able to build a far more powerful personal brand like this. But if you hate the thought of being on camera, it doesn't suit your personality at all, and it's going to stop you from creating anything in the first place, then just start with written content. You can get really great results starting on platforms like LinkedIn. When it comes to choosing your content style, though, I want to challenge you to be really honest with yourself and ask yourself, is it a lack of confidence that is holding me back? Before I started creating content, I never thought that building an audience would be possible for me, especially as a huge introvert. I had put myself in this box where I told myself that this was never something that I could be doing. But the reality is that it was just a lack of confidence holding me back. When I first started out, I didn't like the look of myself on camera. I hated the sound of my own voice. But when I realized that if I wanted to really grow my business, I was going to have to either network or do cold outreach or start posting content. As an introvert, filming a few videos a week and spending a few hours posting was much better suited to my energy levels than actually spending hours doing cold outreach and having to talk to people every single week. And so even if you don't feel confident right now, this is definitely something that you can build up as you go, and it is 100% worth doing this. Building up this confidence and being able to talk and communicate in this way on camera like this has changed almost every aspect of my life and made me a much more confident person, not only on video, but on calls with clients and also in my personal life too. And so if this is you right now and you don't quite feel confident yet, don't let this hold you back. Feeling confident and comfortable on camera can take a lot of practice, but there are 3 things that I would recommend to help with this. The first is just make sure that you have a really quiet space and you're not feeling self-conscious about people hearing you. When I first started creating content, I hated the thought of anyone hearing me and could only film in a completely empty house, so I was sure that nobody would overhear. And then especially if you're not confident thinking or talking on spot, you have your script to the side of you and then just deliver one line at a time. If you make a mistake, don't stop recording, just take a breath and carry on, and you can cut out any awkward words or pauses later on when you're editing the video. You would be really surprised how confident you can make yourself look just in the editing. Most of my content, especially at the beginning, I was not at all confident. I just read out one line at a time. It would usually take me at least 5 takes, and then I just used the editing to bring it together and create a good flow, and this actually made me look really confident even though I wasn't at all. Even now I have a script to the side of me here and I am making a ton of mistakes while recording this video. So you're really not going to be confident at first, but you just want to give yourself time and space to build the skills and the confidence. The worst thing you can do is look at all these creators that you look up to and try to start out where they are now. For example, if you eventually want to create YouTube videos like this, but you have 0 filming experience, 0 ability to speak on camera, and all of the things that you don't know is just going to stop you from actually getting started, then just start with short form written content. And then you can move on to video just by reading out the posts that you create on LinkedIn. And then eventually you'll be able to create a long YouTube video like this. The thing that makes up a great piece of content isn't actually in the filming or the editing anyway, it is all in the script. It's all about learning how to write a hook that grabs attention, how to tell a story in a way that holds people's attention and then gets them to take action. And so the same script that I use for a short form video on TikTok could also be a LinkedIn post. And so if getting on camera like this is stopping you from getting started, then start by writing on LinkedIn, because you're building that foundation to then be able to apply those skills to any other platform. This is exactly what I did. I started on TikTok learning how to get attention and tell stories that hook people in. So I spent 3 years growing my audience on TikTok, and then I moved on to YouTube and grew the same size audience that took me 3 years to grow on TikTok within 3 months on YouTube. But I don't think I would have had the success that I did on YouTube if I hadn't spent 3 years practicing those same skills on TikTok. And so it doesn't matter where you start, just pick the platform that is easiest for you to get started right now, the platform that you know best, that you spend the most time on, and that you just feel excited about creating content for. If you're not sure which one this is, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of the different platforms and the pros and cons of each. And so X is going to be the easiest one to get started on right away. It's great for practicing writing content, getting real-time engagement to test out different ideas and topics and see what gets people's attention. The only problem is that the organic reach is very inconsistent and it can be very saturated, and it's also not the best for conversions. It's very good for building brand awareness, but not necessarily for getting people off of the platform to your products or your email list. And so a step up from this would be creating content for LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn has great organic reach right now. There's much less competition. It's going to be much easier to grow your audience than on X. It's also great for conversions, especially B2B lead generation and networking. The only problem is it's not ideal for all audiences or business types. And so if we're moving into video content, we have short form video on TikTok. This has great organic reach and engagement and very quick feedback loop to test ideas. If we're comparing TikTok to Instagram, it's much better for SEO. The search feature is much better for people finding you, and TikTok posts are also discoverable on Google. The downside is that it is harder to nurture your audience and get them off the platform compared to Instagram. Instagram is going to be much harder to grow your audience, but once you have that audience, it's going to be much easier to nurture them and then convert them to your products or your email list. Then if we're moving on from short form to long form video content, then we have YouTube. This is the best platform for conversions because you get more face time with your audience, so you build that strong connection and trust with them. It's also great for evergreen content, so you post a video now and it continues to get views for years. But it is going to be harder to get started on YouTube. It is just higher effort than short form content. There's a lot more skills that you need to learn, and because of this, it's going to take much longer to grow your audience, and you're going to have much slower growth than if you start by posting short form content. And so if you don't have a lot of experience creating content, then short form content is going to be easier to get started. It's going to be easier and faster to create and grow your audience in the short term. But if you do already have some skills and you don't mind that slower audience growth to begin with, then putting the time and investing into long form content on YouTube is going to get you much better results. It's going to build deeper trust and connection with your audience. It's going to be much better for conversions for your business and for your long-term strategy. And so if I was starting from zero right now in 2025, I would probably use a hybrid content strategy. To make the most of the benefits of both long form and short form content, this is what I would do. I would create one piece of long form content on YouTube, basically put all my effort into creating one really good video showing off my unique system or solution, my product or my service, basically a video sales letter. So if I offer a service, I would walk through the strategy that I use and why it gets people results. Or if it's a product, I would walk through the product and all of the problems that it solves. Now, it's highly unlikely that this video is going to get you a ton of views, but it doesn't matter because I would then pick one short form platform to start posting on. And I would use this platform to get better at creating content, to grow my audience and to test ideas with my audience, because you're able to put out more content and improve faster than if you put all your effort into YouTube or creating long form videos. And so then I would grow my audience quicker on this platform, and then I would send people from my short form content to this YouTube video. I would then treat this YouTube video as my my lead magnet. So you could even offer it as a free training and get people's emails before sending them to this YouTube video. And then I would let this YouTube video do all the selling and converting for me to my product or my service. This is the most effective strategy for converting people to your product or service, even if you don't have a large audience. And if you're interested, I actually made a video going through this entire strategy in more detail, which you can watch here. And so when it comes to actually creating this content, I want to walk you through the workflow that I use every week or every month when I'm planning my content. And so you should at this point already have a good idea of the topics that you're going to be covering in your content based on your transformation statement and your specific zone of genius or the value topics that you've chosen. And so these topics are just the starting point. Creating effective content is going to be about finding the sweet spot between original ideas and proven formulas. And so we want to be coming up with ideas that serve our own goals in terms of building our personal brand and growing our business, but then we want to package it in a way that works on your chosen platform and get views and attention from your audience. And so basically formatting our original ideas in a way that gets people to care about what you have to say. And so the first step is to come up with these original ideas. Now in the workbook below, I have given you this idea generation exercise. What this is going to do is help you take the topics that you've decided to talk about and break these down into bite-sized pieces of knowledge. So that when it comes to planning your content for the week or the month, you want to be intentional about the ideas that you pick for the week, keeping in mind your own goals for your personal brand and your business too. As a general rule of thumb, when it comes to our content, we want to be providing 80% value and only asking for something in return 20% of the time. The goal of each piece of content is to show off your knowledge or show off a specific tip or strategy that you use in your products or with your own clients to prove that you know what you're talking about and show off that you know how to help them. And then you're breaking this value down into bite-sized tips. And so if you're creating 5 pieces of content for the week, you might have 4 posts simply providing value. You don't mention anything about your products or services. You're simply priming people so that when they see this direct sales content with a call to action, they've already seen your other content and started to trust you and they're ready to take action. Now, people aren't necessarily going to see your content in this order, but you want to keep this ratio because when they do see a piece of content and then go to your page, hopefully they're going to be finding it valuable and want to binge all of your content. And then your direct sales pieces of content are going to do the converting for you. Now, this is not an exact science, but here's an example of what this 80% value and 20% sales could look like in your content. If you're creating short form content, maybe you create 5 different posts and only one of them has a direct call to action to download your template or work with you. But for long form content, because you have so much face time with your audience and you have so much time to deliver value and build that trust, then you can include a call to action in every single one of your videos. And so once you've chosen your ideas for the week or the month based on your own goals, then we want to do some research to find proven content formulas. Basically finding content that is already working right now on your chosen platform. And so in the workbook below, you can also find this content workflow, and it's basically just a Notion template that I use to organize my content. And in here, you have a space where you can keep a small list of creators or accounts that you aspire to be like, and you can refer back to for inspiration. Now, I would pick 3 to 5 people that you want to study as your mentors. You want to make sure that these are smaller, faster growing accounts over large accounts that have been growing for a really long time. We want to study content that is currently performing well because we're trying to study what is working now, and that is always changing. You want them to have a similar content style that you will be using, but they don't need to be in the same niche as you. They could just have a similar content format or style that you want to replicate, but they're in a completely different niche. For example, one of my inspiration accounts is Matt Gray. And so what we want to do when we have 3 to 5 of these accounts is to go on here and find their best performing content. You probably want to find around 5 pieces of content from each of your mentors. And what we're looking for is content that was posted within the last 2 to 6 months. This is going to be more like 2 months for short form content and more like 6 months for long form content. And so the top performing content is going to be the content that has more views than average. For example, these videos here get around 10 to 50,000 views usually. And so this video here with 500,000 views would be a top performing piece of content. If the account is smaller and each piece of content generally gets around 1,000 views, but one video got 10,000 views, then that would also be a top performing piece of content. So it's all about the number of views in relation to the average performance of the account. And so by studying these accounts, what this allows you to do is create a list of content that you can analyze and remix with your own content ideas. And so when I say analyze this content within the workbook below, I have given you a checklist of things to think about when you're trying to understand what the creator has done with this piece of content and why it works so well. Now, you do not have to go through this checklist every single time, but if you can practice doing this with a few pieces of content, then you will start to learn this for yourself. And what this means is that you will be able to immediately look at a piece of content, understand what they're doing, why it works, and how you can use that to apply it to your own content and make content that actually gets views and performs well. And this will mean that you will be able to immediately look at a piece of content and understand what they're doing, why it works, and how you can use that to apply it to your own content. And so you're not just stuck trying to copy other people's content word for word. You actually know how to create original content that generates views and gets people interested. And so, for example, if we take this top performing video by Matt Gray, the hook of this video was most people's evenings are killing their success. Now, as the hook is the most important part of the video, quite often I won't even watch the rest of the video. I will just take the hook and then work from there. So looking at this hook, I can see that there are two reasons why this was so effective. The first is the negative hook. So people fear losing something more than they want to gain something. So using a negative hook like this works really well. And the second reason I think this piece of content performed well is that it offers a counter perspective on a very popular topic. So productivity, optimization, and morning routines are very popular topics on Instagram right now, but people don't often talk about evening routines. And so with this in mind, I can then take this piece of content and remix it with my own idea to create an original piece of content. So there are different ways that we can remix this. We could switch the niche. So I could change it from most people's evenings are killing their success to most people's websites are killing their success. I could also switch the platform. I could literally take the exact same hook and then create a YouTube video on the same topic. Or I could switch the perspective. So instead of saying most people's evenings are killing their success, I could say most people's mornings are killing their success. Now, this here is a really good example of why you need to understand the context behind why an idea worked. Because going back to this, I think a big reason why this content idea worked is that it was offering a counter perspective to what most people were talking about. And so switching the perspective back to morning routines from evening routines wouldn't necessarily be a good move for this idea. We can also remix this idea by reversing the hook. So here's how my evenings are the secret weapon to my success. Or we could literally take the exact same hook and then just replace the content of the video with our own evening routine. And so once we have our content ideas, we know what we want to talk about. We also have some inspiration posts that are going to help us format these ideas in a way that gets people's attention. Now we need to flesh out our content ideas to make people care about what we want to say. Most of the content ideas that people want to talk about are actually pretty boring. Nobody really cares about what you want to say, but you can get people to care about almost anything if you frame it in the right way, if you're telling the right story around an idea. And so when it comes to taking our content ideas and writing our scripts, the first question you want to ask yourself is, why would someone care about this? So what is the desired outcome? How is this useful? What results will they see from implementing this? What annoying problem or relatable situation does it solve? Or can I use a shocking statement relating to this to grab their attention? Now, if you can't come up with a good answer to why should someone care about this, then it's not a good content idea. Now, the second question you want to ask yourself is, how can I pique their curiosity? So the first question is going to hook people in, and the second question is going to keep people listening. And so there are three ways that you can do this. You can reduce the effort involved in implementing what you're about to talk about, make it seem really easy. You can establish authority. So basically answer the question, why should anyone listen to me? Or you can offer a new perspective. So a controversial opinion or counter perspective to the status quo to get them interested. And so when it comes to answering the question, why should anyone listen to you? There are three ways that we can do this. One is to talk about the results. Can you link this topic to results that you've achieved for yourself or others? The second is experience. Can you link this topic to your own qualifications, years of experience, or just clients or people that you've worked with? And if you don't have results or experience, then the third thing you can do is just talk about how many hours of research you've done on this topic. The next next question you want to ask yourself is, can I relate this topic to my own experience? So is there an example from your own life that you can use to demonstrate the point that you're making? Are there any struggles or experiences that you can use to relate to your audience? So then once you've answered all of these questions, you've now hooked people in and set the context for the value that you're about to give them. This is where we want to break the value down into a step-by-step solution or framework that makes it really, really easy and simple to understand. And then lastly, we want to think about what is the action that we want people to take when they see this piece of content. So this can be subtle. It can be asking them questions, encouraging them to comment or share, or it could be very direct. It could be, if you want help implementing this for yourself, buy or work with me. And so then when it comes to writing a piece of content, this is an example of how we can bring this all together and structure it in a way that gets people's attention, gets them interested enough to want to continue watching, and then gets them to take action. And so we want to hook people in with a desired outcome, annoying problem, or shocking statement. We want to pique their interest by reducing the effort involved, establishing authority, or offering a controversial opinion. We want to build connection by bringing in our own experiences or struggles. Then we want to deliver the value in a step-by-step solution or framework. And then we want to ask them to like, follow, comment, or download or work with us. Now, not every piece of content is going to look exactly like this or have every single one of these elements. Not all scripts look the same. There are many different ways to tell a good story and keep people hooked. But this is just one example of an effective storytelling structure, and being able to understand and recognize all of these different elements will help you to be able to see them within other people's content too, so you can understand what they're doing, why it works, and then how you can apply the same techniques to your own content. And you'll also be able to play around with these different elements to tell better stories with your content. So what you want to do is do this with all of your content ideas until you have scripts written out and ready to film. What this is going to do, especially if you're finding the idea of getting on camera hard, is just going to make it as easy as possible for you to start. I still don't love the thought of sitting down to record things like this, but if I have a script ready to go, it makes it 100% easier. The other thing that I do to make it easier for myself is just having this permanent setup for filming. Even if it's just leaving out a ring light and not putting it away, anything that makes it easy to just walk in and get started when you need to film is going to remove any kind of barrier from you actually just getting started. And the other thing that I make sure to do is film multiple videos at once. It takes a minute to get in the flow and get comfortable, and so it's going to make your life so much easier to film multiple things in one go, not stop and start and try to record a new video every single day. So when it comes to your filming setup, it is very easy to look at people with this big professional setup and think that you need to do the same. I didn't have any of this when I first started, and I was creating very effective content at bringing in clients and sales with this beginner setup right here. When I started out, I was using a cheap Amazon ring light, I was using an iPhone camera, and then wired iPhone headphones. When I upgraded a couple of years into creating content, the first thing I did was buy a better microphone and a better light. And then eventually I invested a lot of money in a very professional filming setup that you see in front of you now. But you do not need this to get started. And so to make sure that your videos are good enough quality, here's what I would focus on in order of priority. The first thing is sound. So people can put up with low quality lighting, filming, or editing, but not bad sound. Getting a decent microphone is not too expensive, but it will make a huge difference to the quality of your videos. The second thing you want to focus on is lighting. Learning how to light your videos properly can make any setup look professional, even if you're just using an iPhone. And then the last thing that you want to worry about is upgrading your camera. An iPhone is more than enough to start out. And even when you do upgrade your camera, you don't need the most expensive camera. It's actually more about what lens you're using than what camera you're using. And then when it comes to editing your videos, these are the programs that I would use. So CapCut is a free editing software available on desktop and mobile. And then if you're ready to upgrade your editing setup, then DaVinci Resolve is a free professional level editing software. The one thing I want to emphasize though is that the more time you spend scripting and planning before you sit down to film, the more time you will save editing your videos. And you also really do not need fancy editing in order to make effective content. If you're new to editing, just basic editing like cutting out filler words and long pauses can go a very long way. This really just improves the flow of your videos and can make you seem really confident even if you're not at all. If you do want to give extra time and attention to any specific part of your edit, then make it the intro, as this is the most most important part of the video to grab and keep people's attention. And so you can put a little bit of extra effort into editing the intro and then just use basic editing throughout the rest of the video. And so my best tips for when you're ready to post your content is, if you can, try and post at a consistent time. This is good for the platform, but it's also just good for you in general to build an easy habit around this. As you start to grow your audience, you can look at your own analytics to see what is the best time to post depending on when your audience is most active. But otherwise, when you're starting out, it really doesn't matter. Just try to post consistently. I am a big fan of posting and ghosting, especially if you're feeling nervous about putting yourself out there. It's a really healthy habit to be able to remove yourself from your content and not be checking how it's doing every single 5 minutes. Just put it out there and let it go until it's time to go back and analyze what content did well and what didn't, and see how you can improve. But until then, just forget about it. And this is going to be a huge part of treating your content like a business and not a measure of your own self-worth. And lastly, I'm not a fan of third-party schedulers. I think you can pay a lot of money for them. I've also tried a lot of them and never found one that works really well. There's also evidence that your content does not do as well when you use them. And so when I'm planning out and scheduling my content, most platforms will have their own built-in scheduling. And so you can just upload something and schedule it for later. Now, I know a lot of you will be asking now, how often should I post? So to answer this question, first we need to understand that there are 3 stages when it comes to creating content. The first is the quantity stage. So this is when you're trying to grow as much as possible. You're trying to get better at creating content and build your audience, and you're just trying to find out what works. So in this stage, you want to be posting as much as you possibly can consistently. Then you move into the quality stage. So this is when you start to get good and recognize what it takes to create a good piece of content, and you can focus more on creating quality pieces of content. Now, you usually know that you're entering this stage when you can start to predict whether or not a piece of content that you create is going to do well or not. Up until this point, you're probably going to have created a lot of content that you think is really great and people are going to really like, but then it will just flop. But when you start to move into the quality content stage, you start to be able to recognize what is a good piece of content. And then once you've built a consistent habit and you've consistently been able to put out quality content, this is when you can start building out systems around what works and hire a team to grow your content and move into the quality and quantity stage. Now, just to give you some context, I am 5 years into creating content and I'm still in this quality phase, possibly starting to move into this third phase. And so this takes a lot of time to get to, but the most important thing to remember is that you do not need to get to this last stage before your content is effective. You can create your content converting machine when you're still in this quality phase over here, and moving into this phase here just helps you increase your conversions. And so don't look at people who are in this last stage over here and look at the quality and quantity of their content and feel like you have to match that with your content now. It takes a lot of time to get there, and you do not need that in order to start making money with your content now. And so if you're starting out, post as much as you possibly can consistently, because quantity creates quality, especially at the beginning. In order to create better content, in order to find out what works, the more videos you create, the quicker you improve. You cannot learn to create quality content by spending months perfecting one video. Every piece of content is an experiment, so don't take any one piece of content too seriously. Every single time that you hit post, you are running an experiment to test, is this a good idea? Is this something people need? Do I have a good offer? Is it solving a good problem that people actually need? And you're testing your delivery. So is this a good piece of content? The more experiments you can get out there, the quicker you're going to get where you want to go. The thing that people underestimate is the volume of content that is going to take you to get where you want to go. For example, if you are looking at this, these are all of your pieces of content, and the green ones are the successful experiments. So this is your viral content. It's the ideas your audience love and connect with, and it's the piece of content that grow your audience or get you sales. And it's completely random and unexpected, but the more content that you get out there, the more often these pieces of content happen. But so often people will spend so long just perfecting this one piece of content here, putting so much pressure on it that this is going to be the one thing that's going to grow their audience. But that's just not how it works. You have to post all of these pieces of content in order to start seeing any meaningful results. The way that you want to look at this is, if someone told you that if you posted 300 pieces of content, you would be making 20K per month, would you spend months planning and perfecting every single video, or would you just try and get those 300 pieces of content out there as quickly as possible. And this is pretty much how it works. There is no set number of posts that is going to guarantee your success. And you can't just throw out 300 really shitty pieces of content with no plan or improvements and expect to see results. But it is a numbers game. This is how you improve. This is how you progress. And the more pieces of content that you get out there, the greater chance of your success you have at the end of it. But as I mentioned earlier, if you do want to make money with your content, you do still need a solid plan and a business behind your content. Posting content and thinking that the more your views and followers grow, the more your income will grow just doesn't work like that. I know creators with over 1 million followers struggling to make 10K per month, whereas I hit my first 50K month with less than 20,000 subscribers. And that can only happen when you have a solid offer that perfectly aligns with your content. And so this is where we're going to get into the monetization. How do you make money with your content? Now, this is not going to be a guide to getting sponsorships or ad revenue. Last year, my YouTube content made $300,000, 5% of which was ad revenue, and I have never worked with a sponsor. So I think the best way to monetize your audience is to send them to your own products or services. If a brand is paying you $2,000 to make a video that sends traffic to their products, just think about how much more money that video is making them. So if you spend all this time growing your audience and building trust with this audience, then you want to spend that trust by sending them to your own business rather than sending them to someone else's business. When you're thinking about what you want to sell, the first question you want to ask yourself is, what do you want your day to look like? And then based on this answer, you can then decide whether or not you're going to be selling services, selling digital products, or info products. Because your day is going to look very different depending on which one of these you pick. If you're selling services, you're going to be spending a lot of time working one-on-one with clients, doing sales calls, client meetings, and actually delivering those services. And so if you don't want to be spending a lot of time doing this, then maybe digital products is better for you. But the thing with digital products is this can sound great, but the reality is that you are going to need to be spending a lot more time creating content and doing marketing than if you are offering a high ticket service, because you have to generate more traffic to a low ticket digital product to make the same kind of money that you do offering services. And then the rest of your time is going to be spent on product development and customer service. And then if you're going to be offering some kind of info product like courses, this can also look very different depending on the type of info product that you choose. So if you have a self-paced course, this looks very similar to selling a digital product. But if you're offering some kind of coaching or live cohort, then this can look very similar to offering services. And so depending on the format you choose, you're going to end up working one-on-one with people a lot too. So you have to make sure that you enjoy this aspect of it. And so whatever it is that you choose, there's no right or wrong answer, but you have to think really carefully about how it lines up with your vision and what energizes you and what you want your day-to-day life to look like. It's not just looking at other people online and thinking, oh, they seem to be making a lot of money doing this, and so maybe I'll do that too. It's about looking at your own strengths and your personality. And the second question you want to ask yourself that's going to influence which one of these you choose is, how important is it for you to start seeing results right now? For example, if your goal is 10K per month, then this is going to look very different offering a high ticket service than it is selling low ticket digital products. For example, if you have done everything else in this video right, you've created content and you've got people onto your sales page, a good conversion rate for a sales page is between 2 and 5%. So presuming that we have a lower conversion rate because you're newer at this, if you are selling a high ticket service at $5,000 with a conversion rate of 2%, you would need to generate 100 site visits to this sales page here. Whereas if you're selling a low ticket product at $50, you would need to generate 10,000 visits to this sales page here. Now, this is not an exact science and there's a lot of variables here, so it doesn't work exactly like this. Some of my landing pages have a conversion rate of between 5 and 15%, depending on where it's coming from. So the 2% conversion is actually a very conservative example. But the point is that if you are new to creating content, you don't have an audience yet, and you are just learning how to generate this type of traffic to your offer, and you're coming from this place where you need to start making money soon. Let's say you just quit your job, you need to start building a business and income and start seeing results now, then the quickest way to start earning money and build up your income is by trading your time for money. So offering some kind of high ticket service. It is easier to start booking these high ticket clients here than it is to generate the type of traffic that you need to make the same income selling digital products. But if your end goal is, I want to stop trading my time for money, I want to stop working with clients, and I want to start selling digital products, and either you already have an audience and you're able to generate this kind of traffic, or maybe you don't have an audience, but you're ready to put in the time and it's okay if you don't see results right away, then great, start selling digital products. Even when I tried to start selling digital products for 6 months, I saw 0 results before anything started working. Whereas I was able to attract my first web design client within weeks and hit my first 10K month within 6 months. So the decision of what you want to sell has to take into account your current experience, where you're at in your journey, and how quickly you need to start seeing results. So the other thing that you want to bear in mind is that you want to pick one very specific offer to focus all your energy on right now, but your offer can change over time. When I started, I was offering web design service. I also tried a bunch of different things. I was trying website audits, website in a day, a bunch of different website platforms before landing on a signature web design service that I used for all of my clients. And then I transitioned my audience and my offer from services to digital products. So there are so many possibilities, and this is why we are building a personal brand and an audience that give us the freedom to be able to do this. But the problem is that a lot of people will look at other businesses where they have this entire offer suite and try to start out there. You can have multiple offers at once. The end goal for a lot of people is to put together this product suite that takes people through this value ladder from your free products to your high ticket services. You can do all of these things, but trying to start here and put all of these things together at once is a recipe for disaster. Your business and your product suite is built out one offer at a time. You start with one offer, you focus on building that first, and then once that is working, you can start thinking about your second offer and then slowly stack your offers over time. And you can do a much better job when you work this way. And it's also far less confusing for your audience. It's really hard to sell 2 to 3 new offers at a time to the same audience. So when I'm thinking about a new offer, I'm focusing entirely on this for at least 3 months. Most of the time, much longer than this, more like 6 months to a year before you get to the point where it's really dialed in, it's working, and you can think about expanding. So we want to focus on building one offer at a time. And when it comes to building our offer, we want to take a marketing first approach. You don't build the product first, you build the marketing first. So in other words, you do not need to know what your offer is before you start creating content. You want to identify a problem and see if you can attract people interested in solving that problem for themselves, and then figure out the best way to help them solve that problem. It is much easier to build a product around an engaged audience than it is to build an engaged audience around a product or a service that no one wants. I have always taken this approach, even just starting out when it came to my web design services. I put the content out there first to see if I could get clients, and then I worked out how to deliver it once I had the clients, and I built the solution around what they were telling me that they needed. So you want to have an idea of who your audience are and what transformation you're helping them achieve, but you don't need to have all the details of how you help them achieve that transformation yet. Because in order to build an audience that are ready to buy from us, we don't need to talk about the exact details of what we offer. We're just talking about the problems that it solves. And so step 1 of creating our offer starts by listing the painful problems that people are experiencing, and then listing the positive outcomes they can see if they solve this problem. And then step 2 is to create your own personal system or solution for solving these problems. And this is your offer. So create the transformation first, and then think about how you're going to help people get there. So we want to create the transformation, build an audience around helping people achieve this transformation, and then we want to come up with a minimum viable product. So once you've started attracting an audience, once you have a group of people interested in achieving the transformation that you can help them with, when you're creating your offer, when you have an idea for a product or a service, you want to ask yourself, what is the smallest version of this that I can deliver right now? And when I say right now, I don't mean within the next 3 months. I mean within the next day or the next week. So often people have these big ideas for what they want to offer. They want to offer this elaborate service, or they want to create create a 15-hour video course, and then they spend months putting this together alone without even talking to anyone, without getting any audience feedback. And what happens when you do this is that you go to launch it and then you don't get any sales because nobody actually wants what you've built. Or maybe you have actually put together a good offer and it is something that people would want, but you haven't learned to sell it to your audience and you don't even have an audience yet. And if you can't sell people on it, then you don't have a business. And so a better way of doing this is first seeing if you can get people interested in a very small version of your offer and use this to validate, is this something that people actually need? And then get feedback in order to create something that people actually want and will actually get them results. For example, if you have an idea for a digital product and it includes multiple templates and video lessons, just start by launching one template. Or if you want to put together a course, before you spend any time building out a huge course with 15 hours of video lessons, huge amounts of templates, and a community platform, just put together 1 hour live workshop. And then when it comes to offering services, you're not necessarily building out something. And so putting together that micro offer isn't as important. You can literally just create a sales page. And then once you land that client, then you can learn how to do the work. This is what I did with most of my clients at the beginning. For example, someone came to me and asked if I could build them a Shopify site, and I had a good basis of knowledge and skills, but I didn't know exactly how I was going to deliver this project. And I just said yes, and then bought a course and learned how to do it. But something that I did do a little later on was offer website audits. And this actually helped me refine my offer because I was able to get people to tell me exactly what they were struggling with, exactly what they needed, and then they would ask me to do it for them. And so most of the people that booked a website audit with me then turned into clients. And so if you're struggling to gain interest in this high ticket custom service over here, then just put together a simple consulting session or an audit. The thing you want to bear in mind, especially when it comes to high ticket services, is that this micro offer needs to be a smaller thing of the thing that you eventually want to offer. And this is so that you know that you're attracting the same audience. You do not want to offer a DIY template here to try and get people interested in your high ticket done for you services, because that's not going to be the same audience. A DIY template is not going to attract the same people that would be interested in paying you for high ticket custom services. And so then once you've managed to get people interested in your initial micro offer, then you can iterate and scale this based on audience feedback. So I want to give you a very practical example of exactly how I did this with one of my best-selling digital products. So initially I had the idea to sell the Notion template that I use to manage all of my client projects. When I had this idea, instead of spending months building out a sales page and creating all these tutorial videos, I made one initial video just talking about how this template had helped me, what problems it solved, and asking if anyone would be interested in trying it. From here, I then gave it out to 30 people and asked them to try it for free and give me honest feedback. And from these people, I got 5 great reviews and 2 people gave me very honest feedback. One person spent the time to literally put together a Google Doc, basically telling me how disappointed they were with this template. They picked apart everything wrong with it and all the things missing that they wish it had. And honestly, when I got this Google Doc, I was feeling very defensive at first, but the time that they put into this was hugely valuable because this allowed me to put together a version 2 of this dashboard, which was 1000% better than the initial template. And in the meantime, I still had people commenting on my initial video asking for this template. And so while I was spending a lot of time working on this, I knew that there was already going to be an audience ready to buy it when it was done. And so I sent the people commenting on that video to a simple landing page where they just put their email and put themselves on a wait list. And so by building this wait list, what I had done is validated that this was going to be something that people would actually want. And so then I could put together a proper sales page. And the important thing here was that I had some testimonials from those initial people who had tried this template, and I could put that on the sales page to help sell it to this wait list. So then about 1 to 2 weeks after this initial video, I had a wait list of 300 people, and I launched version 2 of this template with just 3 simple emails saying, here are the templates, here are the testimonials, here's where you can buy them. And that initial launch made me $1,500 with a wait list of just 300 people. And so almost immediately after launching these, I got some more feedback and more questions, mainly people needing more tutorials to help them actually use this template. And so literally the same day of the launch, I sat down, made these tutorial videos and got them out there as quickly as possible to everyone that bought this. And this is what got me more great reviews for this product. And then I used these reviews a few weeks later to run a Black Friday offer where I reused the same launch emails with more testimonials and got another boost in sales. And so you can see how using this method actually gets you far quicker results than if I had spent months refining this digital product on my own. And I probably wouldn't have had the same success with the launch because I wouldn't have already built this audience and got the feedback that made this product really great. And this product has now made me a total of $93,000 in the last year and a half. This is a tricky thing to get right. It does take time to find the right product that perfectly aligns with your audience to create results like this. And so if this is something that you would like my help with, then this is what I help people do inside my live coaching program, Independent Creator. And you can add your name to the waitlist for this in the description of this video. And so the next step is going to be pricing your offer. Now, as a general rule, when it comes to pricing, I want to make sure that I am constantly over delivering in value from my free content to my paid products. And so I always want to make sure that I'm providing 10x more value than I ask for in return. And so if you are charging $10,000 for a service, you want your customer to be receiving at least $100,000 worth of value in return. And if you're charging $100 for your product, then you want your customer to be at least getting $1,000 worth of value in return. For example, when it comes to my best-selling product, Web Design Workflow, these are all the templates that I use to deliver high-ticket web design services to my clients, from onboarding to offboarding to actual website templates that I use. And so I am confident that these templates can help people secure clients from at least $1,000. In fact, most people have said that they've used them to secure clients at $3,000, $5,000, or even $10,000. And so I could be charging more like $300 for them, but I chose to price them at $88 because my goal is to completely blow people away and over deliver in value. And I think this is one of the main reasons that I have made so much money with this product, because testimonials and results are far more valuable than sales. Over delivering in value and getting those testimonials and results for people is the most valuable thing when it comes to your product. You're going to get more customers and more sales if you can do this. Looking for a quick payoff and pricing your product too high to begin with can cost you a lot in the long run, because testimonials and results are how you sell your product again to the next person at a higher price. You want to start with a small offer and consistently blow people away at every level, because this is how you get the testimonials and results to get more clients and more customers and charge a higher price the next time. And this is what I call the proof ladder. So you start with a very small product and then you use the testimonials, results, and add to the product to eventually end up with a $2,000 product from a $50 workshop. And so whether you are selling this $2,000 coaching program or this $50 workshop, your goal is to make people think, how the hell did I get this for this price? And so the main thing that is going to get these kind of results for you when you're putting together your offer is your ability to act fast and iterate fast. So the faster you're able to go from idea to action, the more successful you're going to be in all of this. To see the best results with everything that we've gone through here, you're going to need to let go of perfectionism and be willing to take messy action and just get things out there as quickly as possible, and then just iterate and improve as you go. And so when I'm choosing the platforms and the tools that I'm using to actually set this all up and start selling, my main priorities are that it is quick and easy to set up, and it's quick and easy to iterate and make changes. It doesn't matter what platform you're using, just find the easiest and the quickest one to get started. And with that in mind, you also want to create a really simple customer journey from your content to your sales. I keep everything in my business as simple as possible. You want organic content leading straight to a simple sales page. The simpler you keep this customer journey, the easier it is to get things out there quickly, figure out what's working, make changes, and then iterate on this. When you keep things very simple like this, you can see exactly what's working and what isn't. If you aren't getting visits to your sales page, then you need to work on your content and your messaging and your call to action. If you're getting visits to your sales page but it's not converting, then you need to work work on your sales page and your messaging. So then once this simple funnel is working, then you can add things in here like sending people to an email list and adding in a lead magnet or an email sequence to increase your conversions. But the more pieces you put in here to start, the harder it is to figure out what's working and what isn't. If your system here isn't working, then sending people to an email list and an email sequence isn't going to fix anything. And so this is how you create an offer that people actually want and is easy to sell. It's easy to get people from your content to your offer. And this is when your content and your business essentially becomes effortless. But it does take a long time to get to this point, and I've given you a lot of information in this video. And so if you've made it up until this point, you're probably feeling pretty overwhelmed right now. And so I really want to leave you with an easy step-by-step plan that you can start implementing today. And so for all of this to work, for you to be able to take this information and actually build a real business around this, you are going to need a system. Especially when it comes to creating content, people will bang on about consistency. Just post consistently and everything else will fall into place. But this is something that I've really struggled with in my own business, and I actually think that consistency is a lie. I would hear people tell me that I needed to be consistent, and I thought that meant I needed to take action every single day, every single week. You can never take a day off or you completely lose momentum. But I think this mindset really sets you up to fail, and I've had to change my definition of consistency, especially when it comes to my content and my business. I have never managed to be consistent with my content for longer than a few months before I burnt out and needed a break. And so instead of being consistent every single week, every single month, I want to prioritize being consistent over the longest period possible. So I'm asking myself, how can I be consistent over the next 1, 3, or 5 years? And so if that means taking time off, taking time to rest, moving a little slower, then this is something that I've had to learn to do, and this is totally okay. Because actually everything that I have achieved in my own business has been a result of intensity, an intense period of taking action that would be totally unsustainable to do all the time consistently. And so then after this intense period of action, you can take a break to regroup, recharge, and get ready to do it again. And this is how you are consistent over years and not just months until you get burnt out. If you look at any huge company, this is exactly what they do. They have different seasons where they run intense marketing campaigns. And so this is exactly what we're going to do in our business too. So when it comes to planning your content and your business, I would recommend committing and sticking to a plan for at least 3 months at a time. It takes this long, if not longer, to see if something is working, but most people will give up before this point because they're not seeing results and they think that it's not working. So for 3 months, what I want you to do is set a content target and focus on building a routine that allows you to hit this consistently. I want you to focus on developing one offer and promoting one key offer at a time. And then I want you to focus on one call to action. And so if you are just growing your audience from zero, this call to action is going to be engagement focused. So comment, share, follow. But if you already have an audience and you're trying to create an offer and send people to your offer, then you want to pick one action that you want them to take. Download your template, join your email list, whatever it is, just pick and focus on one action, because you need to be consistent and repetitive. You have to repeat yourselves a lot of time to get people to start taking this action. And so I want to remind you of this diagram that we looked at the beginning of this video here. This is the goal, a predictable content system to fuel our business. And so step 1 of building this content ecosystem is taking consistent action, setting a goal for the amount of content you're going to create each week or each month, and just stick to it. This is what is going to feed your content machine. You're filling it up with useful content for your audience to find and binge. So then we want to look at the key components of turning our actual social media page into this 24-hour sales machine. And the first of these is an optimized profile. When somebody comes onto your page, it should be immediately clear what you're about, who you're talking to, how you can help them, and what you want them to do next. So for example, if we look at my TikTok profile, here are the different elements that you should include on your page. First up is a photo. Your image should be a clear headshot and not a full body image. You want to utilize a strong background color to help you stand out and become recognizable. In your name, you want to include keywords to make it as easy as possible for people to find you. Think about what people are going to be searching for when they're looking for someone like you. For example, web designer or copywriter. Don't try to be clever here. And then in your description, you want to include the audience. So make it clear exactly who your content is for. You want to include the results. So what is the result that you help your audience achieve? And this just relates back to our transformation statement that we put together at the beginning of this video. And then you want to add some kind of indicator of authority. So why should people trust you? And so things that build authority are your audience size, your years of experience, the money you've made, or the people that you've helped. if you feel like you have nothing to put here just yet, then skip this. It's not necessary to begin with. Just go back and add this whenever you feel like you have something to put here. And then last up, you want to include your focus call to action for this 3-month period. What is the action that you want people to take? Follow, download freebie, work with me, buy my product. And so at this point, someone has come onto your profile, they've seen what you're about, and then the next thing they're going to see are your top posts. So we're going to use these to tell a story to your audience and nurture them to the action that we want them to take. If you're on a platform like YouTube or on a platform that only lets you pin one post to the top of your page, then you can combine each of these 3 posts. But the first post that you need is your founder story. And so this might include the story of your own transformation and how it relates to the results that you help your audience achieve. Or if you don't have this story yet, it could just give your background and why you started this business, or take your audience behind the scenes and just share more of your personality or a day in the life video. And so once you create this video, you want to pin it to the top of your profile. And even if you're not 100% happy with it, post it anyway. You can always recreate and improve on this post every few weeks. This is a great piece of content to repost once a month anyway. The second thing that you want to pin to the top of your page is customer results. And so you want to include some kind of visual transformation before and after, or a case study of my client was struggling with this problem. Here's what I did to help them get this result. This is also a type of content that you can recreate a lot, and then just keep your best performing posts pinned to the top of your page. And then lastly, you want to create a post showing off your offer, showing off your product or your service, everything that's included, and finish with a direct call to action to buy or work with you. You always want to keep a pinned post of your key offer at the top of your profile. Now, all 3 of these posts are not going to be ones that get a huge amount of views. Maybe they do grow your page, but for the most part, these are going to be ones with very low views, but they're going to be very effective at converting your audience when they come onto your page from your other content. And then the third component of this 24-hour sales machine is having a library of useful content for people to binge, proving your expertise and building that connection with you. And this is what we're building when we're posting consistently. Not every piece of content is going to perform well or grow your audience or go viral. Some of these are just going to sit on this page in this library here, ready for when you do have those pieces of content that perform well and bring in your audience. And then lastly, as we talked about before, the last thing you need to turn your profile into a 24-hour sales machine is a clear call to action, either directly to a sales page to work with you or buy your product, or if you don't have that yet, either a lead magnet or a wait list to grow your audience for something that you have in the future. And as I mentioned, this content machine is going to be far more effective if you are just focused on one call to action at a time. And so this is what we're focused on creating. And then at the end of every month or every 2 weeks, we want to carry out a content analysis and see what's working and what's not. This is going to give you far better information than constantly checking a post every 5 minutes after you post it to see how it's doing. Doing that is only going to drive you crazy. And so when it comes to your content, what you want to see is, what is your best performing content in terms of views? What is your best performing content in terms of engagement? So comments or sharing. And then are there any content formats that work well, any hooks that work well, or common themes or topic that people seem most interested in? The other thing that you can check is, what are people saying in your comments? What questions are they asking? What are you telling you about themselves and what they need? This is what is going to give you all the information you need to do more of the things that are working when you are planning your content for the next few weeks. And then at the end of every sprint, so every 2 to 3 months, you can carry out an offer analysis. And so first up, your content should be talking directly about the specific problems that your offer solves for people. And this way you're able to look at your content and see, is the content that I'm making around the problem that I solve getting engagement? And so am I solving a problem that people actually need help with? If the answer is yes, then you have validated that this is a problem that people actually need help with and that you're on the right track. And so the next question you can ask is this content driving traffic to your sales page? So is your call to action working when you talk about your offer? Are people interested enough to actually go to your sales page? And if the answer to this question is yes, then you have validated that people are serious about finding a solution to the problem they're having and would seriously consider buying from you. And then the last question you want to ask yourself is your sales page converting? And And so a good conversion rate is between 2 and 5%. And so if your sales page is converting, but you're still not making enough sales, then you just have a traffic problem. You need to find a way to generate more traffic to this sales page. And if you're getting traffic, but it's not converting, then you know that people want a solution, but either they don't want the solution that you're offering, or you're not communicating it well enough. And this is why when you make this whole content system very focused around one set of problems, around one offer and one clear call to action, then this whole process of iterating and improving is so much easier and quicker. But the thing you need to remember is that it takes 2 to 3 months of consistency to see any meaningful results, which is why you have to really commit for a period of time before you look at this and decide whether it's working or not. And so the last thing that I really want to encourage you to do is just start taking action quickly. There are two types of people when it comes to creating content and building a business. You have the person who wastes a year trying to find the perfect niche, the perfect colors, the fonts, getting the perfect camera and lighting. And then you have the person who just says, fuck it, let's try it and see what happens, and starts taking action from day one. And this person is going to get so much further than the one that's stuck in the overthinking and the planning. Now, I know how hard it is. I have been caught up in the overthinking and the researching and the perfecting so many times over the last 5 years. But this is going to be your biggest barrier in terms of actually making any real progress. And so there are two things that get me out of this overthinking hole when I'm stuck here for too long. The first is to shut yourself off from what everyone else is doing. Just stay in your own lane and just avoid any kind of comparison. And the second is to take action. That's the only way to stop the overthinking, is just to do one thing and get moving. And the number one thing that helps me stop comparing myself to others is to just create more than I consume. As I mentioned earlier in this video, looking around at what other people are doing and learning from them and copying what works is an essential part of creating content and growing a business. But you want to be really disciplined with it. You want to choose your platform, you want to choose the mentors that you take inspiration from, and try to only look at them when you are in the mindset of doing research. You're looking at them through the lens of, what are they doing that I could use in my own content? And then when you've done your research, shut yourself off to everyone else and start creating, and make sure that you're spending more time creating and working on your own thing than you are researching and looking around at everybody else. And the key to taking consistent action, especially when you are feeling stuck, is to set goals around the actions that you're going to take, and then focus entirely on these actions and forget about any kind of results or outcome. There is always a period of time when you're creating content or when you're building a business where you are seeing zero results, and you just have to trust the process and keep going. And this could be months, it could be years. There have been many months like this in my business. And so you have to be able to say, I am going to be posting 5 pieces of content every single week, regardless of the result of any one piece of content. If my content only gets 10 views, I'm just going to still take this action and trust the process. It is really not an easy journey, but it is 100% worth it, because at the end of the day, we are building an audience and a business that gives us complete time freedom over what we want to do with our life. And so the best thing that you can do to help you on this journey is to invest in yourself and surround yourself with other people who have the same goals. And so as I said, if you need my help with anything here, this is what I do in my coaching program, Independent Creator. You can add your name to the waitlist below.